Being a founder is incredibly lonely. It's also very rewarding. When it works, it's just fantastic. But when it doesn't work, it can be really crushing.
Building a new therapeutic can be one of the hardest things in the life sciences world. It requires navigating complex biology, clinical trials, and an entire ecosystem of partners. And most founders don't have all that expertise in-house. In this episode, I'm joined by Katrina Rogers. She's an analytical chemist and life sciences advisor who began her career at Pfizer and now works with biotech founders to help them navigate drug development, strategy, and commercialization. Later, Katrina shares why some of the most promising biotech companies stall out and the one mistake founders often make when navigating the drug development ecosystem. So let's get started. Katrina, welcome to this episode. I'm so glad you're here to join me to have this conversation. We met through the Bullpen or BLPN organization, and it's great to have you here to talk and hear about what you do in this crazy world of life sciences.
Well, thank you for inviting me to be on the podcast. I'm delighted to be here with you.
Well, let's talk about your career. What got you into life sciences? Where did this all start for you?
So I got my start after getting my degree at the University of Washington. I'm an analytical chemist by training and inclination, and which seems a little odd. My mom was a clinical chemist, so I think that's probably where the seed got sparked.
Right.
But I've always enjoyed the science of chemistry. After I left the University of Washington, I joined Pfizer Central Research, and doing everything soup to nuts, from very early discovery all the way to IND enabling work through the lens of metabolism studies. So as opposed to thinking about pharmacology, where you're asking about how the drug acts on the body, well, metabolism is really about how does the body act on the drug.
Right.
And then just kind of naturally moving forward through there into contract research after I left Pfizer, and added some pharmacology skills to it as well, but still thinking about what is it like to bring a biologic or a small molecule through to clinical trial studies. And then,
having that initial infusion or launch into big pharma must have been a very interesting way to start your career, to see it from that standpoint.
Oh, it was exciting. Super exciting to be at Pfizer during those years. And then I had to relocate all the way from Seattle to Groton, Connecticut, which is basically on the other coast. And those of you who have lived in New England, from having gone there from any place else, know that it's a really different place to live. A lot of fun, very, very interesting, lots of history, lots of fun things to see. But you probably need to be a little bit more self-sufficient if you want to kind of be comfortable and sustain yourself in New England. They're very family-focused there.
Right. And so was it kind of, once that was done, you ventured out away from Pfizer then, was it kind of set in your mind that wasn't where the environment you wanted to be in, as far as in that kind of a corporate environment, so to speak?
Actually, so I moved from Pfizer into contract research at MDS Pharma Services, which is just another corporate environment, different lens sort of thing.
Right.
I loved my time at Pfizer. Would still recommend it to anybody. It was fantastic. It was a lot like being at graduate school, except I had some money. And
nice.
And
yeah, right.
And it was a blast. I met a lot of people that I still talk to and engage with. The metabolism community is on the smaller side, so still see people that are thought leaders in the industry even today, and have an opportunity to collaborate with them. But one of the things about our industry is it's very strongly founded on a framework of contract service providers. In the earlier days of my career, a lot of the work was being done at the larger pharma. They had discovery and development frameworks already, project teams already well established. That has decreased over time because it's very expensive and, statistics being what they are. So what are we seeing? Where are we seeing some of the new molecules coming from? They're coming from more and more smaller shops, virtual pharma, as well as academic labs. So, in 2008, the number was around 60%. It's only grown since then in terms of the fraction that are coming from that space.
Right.
And the truth is, no one has all the skills that they need to bring something all the way from those early bench stages through development and into the actual clinic and then to development and marketing.
Right.
So the contract service industry has become really a significant powerhouse driving a lot of these assets. But then you also have to, if you're going to be a founder, you have to understand that, and then you have to be able to access it as well.
Right. And is that a better idea, having these smaller groups coming out? Is that, do you find it's a more effective approach?
So from a shots on goal perspective, yes. From a being closer to the biology perspective, I think yes. So I think one of the things that a lot of people fail to recall is that it's really around, in order to create a new therapeutic, you actually have to have a hypothesis about how some kind of drug, whether that's a biologic or a small molecule, works in the body to create the effect that you're trying to drive, right? The therapeutic effect. And so your hypothesis is not only about what the therapeutic effect is, but what receptors or, what mechanism in the body that you're interacting with in order to drive that actual effect.
Right.
There really aren't animal models for it, so it's very helpful to have people really understand the biology, do that early work, but then you pretty much have to say, okay, well, now we have to make this druggable. And does that mean, how are you going to dose it? What is going to be the dosing form? How do you create enough of it in order to start some of these studies? How do you prove that it is safe enough that we could actually have a human clinical trial to test the benefits? Because you don't know anything about the benefits, so all you're trying to do is say, it isn't going to kill people right off the bat.
That's the upside.
We can dose it within a certain therapeutic range. We think we can dose it within this certain dose range, and it might make people a little sick, but it won't kill them.
Right.
All of those things, they build on one another, and it's again not something that everybody knows everything about. It's unusual to find somebody who has a kind of bigger sense of the picture of the story too.
Unless you surround yourself with those people.
Indeed.
Right?
Indeed. And that's one of the things I love about the BLPN is that we try to bring in people from all parts of the ecosystem.
So that they can tap into those people or those
exactly.
Specialists. And when the time arises and when the moment presents itself, you have that network. So
well,
where did you see your...
The other thing is being able to speak confidently to the people that you ultimately want to exit with. So, this is the major players is still small to medium to large pharma. The companies themselves are looking for assets because their clinical trials are not always completing as well, and so they need new assets and need new ideas. But you have to be able to speak competently to how you got to now.
Mm-hmm. So where did you see yourself fitting in this equation? Where did you find that you felt you had the most value and the most potential?
Well, sure. So one of the things that I recognized is that in this kind of heavily startup ecosystem from both a pharmaceutical and a device development space this is lonely work. It is quite often very isolating. It is not friendly to family lifestyles, or it takes a lot of energy and a lot of focus to get it done. And the worst pain points you can have is running out of ideas, right? You have problems and you just run out of ideas. So I recognized that I had a broad enough skill set, and that because I read widely, it's my superpower. I have developed additional knowledge, capabilities, skills, and aptitudes that I think I have developed additional knowledge, skills, and abilities that enable me to provide some great insights to founders who are struggling, and that's why I decided to start my professional services firm.
Amazing. Katrina to the rescue. Bio 911 or something.
Bio 911. If only I could have gotten that number, right?
Yeah, right. So that's great. So that's where you can kind of come in and say, where are you at and where do you need support? And you can provide that expertise or that advice and guidance along the way.
Exactly.
So give us a little bit more of a picture of what that looks like, a scenario that.
Okay. So the capsule conversation is that my strengths are providing confidential advice and that capacity enhancement so that the leaders can focus on guiding their companies to successful exits. And what that means is I work as best as a problem solver. I come in, I'm often invited in when companies face challenges, whether that's a go-to-market challenge, whether that's a development challenge, whether that's even an earlier stage kind of team challenge. And it could be in strategy, it could be in pure operations. There's often some leadership component to it, not because people are poor leaders, but because we just don't know what we don't know. And we often, the skills that we had or received when we were in college or postgraduate work aren't always the skills that we need to be successful founders. So I excel at the deep dive. I excel at understanding and helping people understand how did we get to now, and then also thinking through and working together on the next steps. What are the options that we have? Where, which ones should we eliminate? Again, we were talking a little bit earlier about the lifeline. Could we do a 50-50 and eliminate some of the options? Right? So you can say, all right, we're not even going to think about those. They're just not good options for us. And then just really thinking through what are the next steps. And sometimes that's very painful. Sometimes the next step is to wind the company down. And that's very time consuming. It requires a lot of energy, and people need some help getting through it because it's a grieving process as well.
And of course, we're talking about the founders,
Indeed.
people who have ideas, visions, and they come from all places and spaces. And you get, like you said, not everyone has all the skills or qualities to do all the roles that are sometimes expected of a founder. A founder, especially at the beginning, wears all the hats.
Okay.
And they have to have the idea, know the science,
Indeed.
understand the value of what this would have in the world, and usually driven by some sort of personal story or some sort of passion for finding whatever cure or fix they're designing. So at all these stages, I'm understanding maybe you can kind of wear some of these hats on their behalf when they get to this certain point where you can come in and go, okay, give me that hat. I'll take over that part. You focus on this.
That's correct. Fractional work is a significant part of what I do. I also do specific projects. So again, thinking not maybe taking a hat on full time, but being able to say, all right, we've just got this one thing we have to figure out. Can you go and figure it out for us and come back with a nice clean report or an engagement or something like that? And it could be, it's in a lot of different things. It's in technical operations, it's in laboratory management, it could be in regulatory work. It's always very fit to purpose.
Do you find there's like a common thread amongst founders that seem to be a place where they trip up on or get stuck on?
Mm-hmm. That's very true, and I think it's really around the engagement level. So that, and I think maybe the best way to think about this is most technical founders aren't very good at sales, and it's not a skill we learn in college, or tend to gravitate towards. Many of us are more comfortable in the lab than we are actually in front of people. So helping people overcome that barrier, as well as to understand that maybe they're not the right person. So I'm always very proud of founders who make a decision to say, I am not. I have to go and find the right person to be the face of this company, because that's not me. I can back them up with the technical and scientific pieces, but this is just not a skill set that I can develop.
And that would be a hard thing to have this sort of, it's a baby. You've created this thing from conception to here we are. And so it would be a very difficult step to say, okay, I'm going to hand this over to this other person, and they're going to now be the face of the company, and they're going to go out there and pitch and sell and try and attract some attention. Mm-hmm. So because it involves relinquishing control and ultimately trusting someone else with your baby.
Exactly. And you have to learn how to take other people's feedback, which can sometimes be very critical. I don't think that people necessarily come at this with ill intent, but it certainly sometimes comes across as blunt, curt, very painful. So that's, you sometimes have to just swallow your tongue and say, thank you for that information or for that feedback, and move on, because there are lots of people in the world who will say, you can't do this.
Right.
Some of them are your family members, which is, that's a struggle. It's in and of itself. But if you cannot get over that piece, I think it's one marker of you have to distance yourself from the sales piece of it. But you still have to be thinking about, well, what is your ultimate goal? And that often is that's often a centering conversation that I have after I got to know a founder and we're working together. Is like, let's stop for a minute and look back at where you were at the beginning and what was your goal? What are you trying to do? Do you really want this medicine, or do you want this device to be out for people who need it? Or, has this become more about control or ego, or have we drifted away from your original vision, and is that where you want to be now?
Have you found often that they do drift? There is a drift from the original?
Well, to be a startup founder takes an enormous amount of nerve and self-confidence just to be able to say, I'm going to do this.
Right.
So that it can tip over. It can definitely tip over into an ego trip.
And belief. I mean, they have to believe that this is going to work.
Right.
This is something that the world needs. So to have that has to be the start of it. And then where it goes from there can, I guess, depending on the conditions and the environment and the outcomes, it can morph it.
Exactly. And the belief isn't wrong. It could very well be that the world needs this. But the belief has to be adapted by the fact that maybe what the world needs is something that's close to what you're building, but is somebody else's way ahead of you. Maybe what the world needs, maybe the world isn't ready for what it really needs, right? There are plenty of technologies that take 10 to 20 years for people to be like, wait a minute, we really need this.
That's right. And maybe we will be ready in 10 to 20 years, but
it'd be more ready if you can sustain it, and it's the whole craziness of running a startup.
Right. But this is not for the faint of heart, because this not only comes with a lot of vision and belief and effort, it also requires money. And unless you're self-funding that, which is a rarity, is it not? So part of what you're talking about too is that the founders are not necessarily the right people to be going out and asking for money either.
They aren't always the right people. I think I've seen plenty of founders learn to do it and do it very well. There is certainly an element of, what's that old saying, right? Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water.
Carry water.
You are just going to have to do, at some point, you are just going to have to knuckle down and
get to work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That made me think of something else. I don't know what it was, but it came and went. Yeah,
we were talking about sometimes the founder isn't the right person to go out and raise or
right. Oh, yeah, and we're talking about raising.
Right.
So when it comes to raising, how do you help with when you get to that stage? Do you help them with raising part as well, and going out and pitching and preparing to find the money.
Exactly. So, one of the things that I can do is both listen to and help them develop the message around their pitch, and then their visuals and graphics, right? Quite a few founders are very excited about their science. Yay, we're very happy that you're excited about your science. Investors don't care. They assume that you have great science. You know your science. They don't, that's not what you have to prove to them. What you have to prove to them is that you can make the statistics of their fund better. And what do I mean by that? The average statistics of any fund. You got a chunk of money, you're the GP, a bunch of your friends and people you know and people you want to have a good relationship with have given you this money, and they expect you to have a return. So you're on the clock. Now you have to go out and write checks, and the statistics say you write about 20 checks. That's 20 for every 20 companies that you fund. One will be a big winner. That's the 20x return. That's the one that everybody dreams of. 2 to 3, will probably might return the money, maybe might return 2x or 3x.
Break even,
results,
like
results, but fairly limited. The rest will lose money. What do you have to show? You have to have as a founder, you have to have a very convincing argument, a business case, data, all of the pieces that you need to say, I have a way, I'm pretty confident that I can get this over the goal line and be one of those 2x to 3x companies. You don't target the 20x, because that's just crazy. That's just luck. It's just pure luck to be in that group. But if you could at least just return the money that they invested, you haven't lost any money.
Right.
And so the funder, the GP, their statistics are just going to be better. And because what is their goal? They want to have fund 2 and fund 3. How do you do that? You just show that your statistics are a little bit better than somebody else's.
Oh, I see. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, if you think of it like a game like that, it gets a little less.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah. That's good to know. That's good information. Absolutely. So, how do you prepare the people you're working with? How do you get them through from point A to point D?
Sure. So my process involves some early discussions. One of the things that I pride myself in is I want to find out what does this look like right now? Where are all, what are all the problems that you are seeing? Let's try to tease out some of the other problems that maybe you're not paying attention to, or you can't see because you're just not at that stage yet. What does the problem look like, not just from the founder's point of view, but from the other stakeholders, the people who may have put in early money, or the people who are partnering with them? Is there a place where we can work together that I can help? Because if I can't help, then I'm not going to ask somebody to spend money if I can't help them. No, now, I do have a really great network, so if there's someone else who is in a better position to help, I will make that introduction, and I'll be just like, "Go, you guys! Yay, founder! Let's see what happens." And
then you become a cheerleader.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
Exactly. When I can help, it can take different kinds of forms. We can start small with an early project, as I mentioned. Just one thing to take that off a founder's plate. Mm-hmm. I can do a fractional. I can do, that's typically some kind of retainer engagement. So I can do fractional all the way on up to some sort of full-time hands-on. Let's get in there and get some work done. And the projects, I don't have, you mentioned sort of the investor relations piece. I can help people pull together lists. I can help people train to do their own investor relations work. I can do some of that work for them, but I'm very careful about that. So usually when I do that sort of introduction for people, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get the investors to come to an opportunity for them to give feedback to a founder, right? So very low stress, just an opportunity to hear them pitch and to give some feedback for somebody who's trying to get out there and raise. And what do we find in this ecosystem is that the people who are open to this are very generous with their time. They'll spend 30 minutes to an hour listening to somebody. They'll give some great qualitative feedback, and sometimes they'll bring a resource too. So
interesting. And so a big part of what you do too is an education process too, right? Because you're teaching them along the way, showing
that's
them.
Correct.
You're opening doors and guiding them through the process. So
yeah.
How did you build that out?
Well, so I think that none of us know. I've got a lot of expertise, but I don't know everything. So
right.
I always look at every project as an opportunity to learn together, to share the expertise that we have to make something greater than what the individual parts are. And so that's, if that means I have to do extra work and do a deeper dive and try to get and understand and build my own network of experts to kind of get the information that we need. If I have to do some library research, if I have to, and sometimes it is really just thinking about and pulling together ideas and trying them out real time.
Where does you have some articles that are out on your blog right now that people can subscribe to? One of them is right now you're working with the deal screening mastery.
Right.
Is that right?
Yeah, I have my newsletter and blog is on Substack. It's The Thinking Cat. I am the Thinking Cat.
The Thinking
Substack.
Cat?
Yeah.
I love that.
And this year, that's writing and that kind of content and sharing these ideas with people is one of the ways that I try to help the ecosystem, as a pro bono way, right? I think that we if we have a common conversation and then we ask these questions of one another, that sparks ideas and gets people thinking about their next steps. So at the beginning of 2026, I had an idea about it just sort of sparked this idea about running a series for a deal screening mastery. And the first article that I did was really talking about how commercialization plans, their amounts and frequency sort of reveal founder DNA. And then sort of went from there to start talking about, what does it mean to evaluate a team versus an idea? Because someone at JP Morgan asked me, do you back the jockey or do you back the horse? And I'm like, well, no,
that's a good question. Yeah.
It's a very simplistic framework, though, because ultimately that argument, it fails to recognize that there's some synthesis of the two that has the real value. It's around founder problem fit. It's about, is there a mismatch there, and can that mismatch be corrected? And so how do you match that then to a funder's thesis statement? So it's an important argument to think about, both if you are a funder and you're trying to figure out how you're going to screen all these deals, and also if you're a founder and you're saying, well, of all the funding organizations in the world, which are the ones that I should go after? Because you'll probably make a giant list, but again, this is sales 101, right? Mm-hmm. How many leads can you handle at once? Well, maybe 10.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So how do you get to, you get from your 700 leads to the 10 that really make sense to have a conversation with?
Yeah. And that comment about the jockey and the horse, it's so true. I mean, with investors that I've spoken to, often I've heard them reference phrases like they'd rather back a D product and an A team than an A product and a D team. Because they really look quite closely at the members of the team, the founder, the CTO, and whoever else is part of the company or the initiative. Does that resonate with you? Does that kind of align with what you're talking about?
And I think that there's a form of cognitive bias there, which is not necessarily, I don't mean it negatively, but I think where it's formed is because this is ultimately a relationship business. You have to trust. You really have to trust that you're going to give somebody millions of dollars. Well, maybe it's not going to be millions. At early stages, maybe you're giving them $100,000 or something. Yeah. That's still a pretty substantial.
That's a lot of money, for sure.
And you trust that
you want it back with interest.
Exactly, and that's why you invest. And you want to you want to see them do something with it too. So even people who are purely impact investors who are just like, all right, we know that some of this stuff is just not, it's going to fail. We're just backing the ideas that we think make sense. Even they want what's the return they want from them? They want the actual impact.
Right.
So you trust that somebody will be able to do that, and a big piece of that trust is trusting the founding team. And I think it leads to some kinds of bias that we see in the marketplace where people will just back people who look like them. And I think if that's the only thing you do, okay, that you go and you do you, but I think you're missing out on some really great ideas. I'm just saying.
When you're, founders are probably listening, and hopefully they are. There are some things you and I talked about previously about things that when you're developing the pitch and they're developing their presentation and you're helping them with that process. You kind of broke it down for me that the core items that need to be heard, particularly in the first pitch when you're actually just sort of piquing interest, right? You only want to say so much. You want to get someone interested, or those that are interested are going to come back and say, I want more info.
Sure.
And like you were saying before, don't dwell on the science. Get on with the other parts of the story that are actually more significant at that very first early stage of presentation.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things that I've learned, it's constantly being reinforced to me, is all you're doing is trying to get to the next meeting. So when you first meet somebody, you cannot possibly convey all the information that they would need to be able to say yes to you. So don't try. This is controversial in some circles. We talk about it in the BLPN meetings, but the truth is, you should be able to give the core of your message in 5 slides, and in a very, very short, brief sentence. Because if you're going to meet somebody on an elevator, you had better be able to say it in a sentence to get their interest. Because all you're trying to do is get on their calendar for that next meeting. So,
and what's the ratio? I think you broke it down into a ratio. There was like percentage of the presentation should be the science, and then another percentage should be the story about the team, and then the other percentage is like your commercialization.
Right. So, if we think about the 5-slide format, then you can say 20%. If you do this in a 10-minute presentation with 5 slides, so that would ultimately be about 2 minutes per slide, which is a pretty lengthy amount of time.
Yeah.
You've got to have an introduction. That's your hook, right? It's just what makes you interesting. It's not really your problem, because the next piece is your problem, right? You have to make the problem really compelling. Why is it why is this such a pain point that people will just spend money like crazy for any solution, and there's no solution, and they're desperate for it? And then your solution, ta-da! It has to be. This is where it has to be so compelling, and part of the compelling piece is your science, but that's only a tiny part of it. There's a part of it that is around, why is it that this particular thing is going to be the savior for, why is this particular product or why is this particular therapy going to actually make it? And then you have to talk about your traction, which is what you've done with the money you've had so far. So how much money have you raised, and what have you done with it so far? How many milestones? This is how you demonstrate that you are just capable of moving the needle, moving the thing forward. And I would say at traction, you'd probably want to forecast a little bit about thinking about how, what do you see your next milestones, and what do you anticipate that's going to, what's your budget there? You don't have to put your ask on that slide, but sometimes that's a great place to put it.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then talk about the team and why this is the team. Because again, you're thinking about what's this problem first, then how does the team and how they achieved this traction show that something could be moving forward. That's the most in an early
That's great.
engagement, that's the most you should tell somebody. You leave them wanting to know more.
Yeah, as much as you really want to talk about the molecules and the physics
Plenty
and
of time
everything else.
to talk about that in the inevitable meetings that you're going to have to build the relationship.
Right.
Yeah.
Speaking of relationships, BLPN is the place. We've mentioned it a few times, formerly called the Bullpen, but it's the Building Legendary Professional Network.
Okay.
That's a great place to build relationships. It's where I met you.
Mm-hmm.
It's where we've met. I've met a lot of people who've been on the podcast. So tell me a bit more about your involvement with that and what attracted you to that network.
I love the Bullpen. It's fantastic. We still call it a little bit the Bullpen, even though the brand is BLPN.
Technically, it's not, but it is.
But it's so easy to say. And then there's the whole baseball theme thing. And
yeah, so good.
But I love this club. And I was introduced to it by Victoria Donovan of Clinical Media in late 2023. And she introduced me to Christian. And Christian's like, who are you? He invited me to one of the virtual meetings that they were running in preparation for JPM Week 2024. And from the very first meeting, I'm like, oh, these are my people. I have to be part of this club. So I immediately signed up as a founding member, and I've been one ever since. Did not go to that first JP Morgan week in person, but during that event, they were doing a lot of live streaming from the Golden Gate Yacht Club. So I got to see all the content as it was being live streamed.
Oh, they streamed it. Oh, that's
They streamed
great.
it.
Yeah.
I feel like they should do some of that again, just for the heck of it. But we still do a lot of videotaping of thought leaders at the Yacht Club. We just usually do it to capture the data, capture the video, and then do the post-processing afterwards.
Right.
But the sort of live feed is quite a lot of fun, right? It's a little bit more kind of the feel of being at the Yacht Club. And then my very first in-person event was the second of our sort of core or pivotal events for the year, which is Bio International Conference Week. And in 2024, that was in San Diego. So it went down to San Diego. That's when we were the Car Collective. We were having the car show. We were doing all of this other stuff. And so I volunteered as a member on site. And it wasn't long after that before Christian and the leadership team asked me to come on board a little bit more full-time to volunteer as KOL director, which I've been doing off and on over the last couple of years. And it's been a lot of fun. Go to the virtual events. I've been at a lot of in-person events. I've had an opportunity to expand my network really well, to meet and talk to new and fascinating people. We did our Latin American Dealmakers event yesterday, and I'm just like, these are great people I never would have had a chance to meet if I wasn't part of this club.
Yeah, I missed that one. I had something else
really
I was
great.
involved in.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I was sorry to miss that one.
That's okay. Just reach out to you've got the list of the people because it's in notes.
That's right.
Just reach out to them. They're fantastic and they want to engage.
Oh, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Okay, I'll have to do that. Yeah, and so what do you find yourself doing more often than not for BLPN?
Connecting others. So members still see me, as I've stepped up back a little bit from the leadership team as we've restructured to focus on, how do we make the club sustainable? How do we build it in a way that's very useful for the existing members? But I volunteer still, and one of the volunteer roles that I work on is our Moneyball program, which is the program that we use to help our founders figure out how to make their messages better and to get themselves ready for these core events, JP Morgan Week as well as Bio International Week, and then to support other members as well as our thought leaders as they come to the club with asks, right? The mantra is very much close to my heart: find someone to help, repeat. And I really think that it's been very valuable for me as I make my way through the ecosystem and build my business. And so I try to give back as much as I can.
Right, and your company is Katrina Rogers Consulting?
That's correct.
Correct.
Even though the URL says Rogers Consulting, so it was the only URL I could get.
Rogers.
People are like, "Are you associated with a grocery company?" No. No, if only. But
you're great. Like for following people, you're great. You're such a great storyteller, and you're really great with your brand, and you're very active on socials. And so, if anybody wants to follow you, they can track you down on LinkedIn, and plus you're on a couple other platforms, right?
Yeah, I'm not just a Katrina Rogers. I am the Katrina.
The
Rogers.
Katrina Rogers. Do you have a T dot in front of that? Anyways, have we? Is there anything else? What's next for you? What's on the horizon for you? Is there something you've got your sights on?
Right now, I've got actually coming up here really quick. I'm going to go to University City Science Partners Capital Readiness program, and that is a group of funders who have organized this program to help a very select cohort of founders get themselves ready for capital raising. And so Eli Velasquez, he is founder and CEO of Capital Stack Investors, and he's one of the team that is working on this University City Science Partners program. It's based in Philadelphia. So I'm going to Philadelphia to participate for a week. They lock all the founders into a room for a week with a bunch of mentors and investors like me. And then we just hash it out. They have a nice program to challenge people, to kind of challenge their thinking around their message, but also challenge their thinking around the structure of their company and what might potentially happen. And so it's a real learning experience for everyone involved, because we get an opportunity to be exposed to a lot of different life science companies. They have tried it out with cohorts of US-based companies, but also companies from around the globe. And I'm just really looking forward to experiencing it live for the first time.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I was looking forward to it. I mean, we've had several conversations, so I feel like this is a continuation of our previous conversations,
right?
But this time it was recorded and we'll get to share it. And thank you so much for joining me, Katrina. I really appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome, Heath. I'm just so excited by the opportunity to not only share what Bullseye Media does for the people that you work with, but really appreciative to have a chance to meet you, Megana, and then to kind of work together.
Yeah, absolutely.